This is episode number 192 of the Mixology Talk podcast, and today we're going to talk to a couple of bartenders that opened a company during COVID. I know that sounds crazy, but they did, and we're going to talk a little bit about the journey of opening a company during COVID, and also we're going to talk to them about some really cool presentation ideas around batch cocktails, so stay tuned. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Mixology Talk podcast. It's been a little bit since we had our last episode, but I'm really excited with our special guests here. So today we have special guests Cody and Cornelia, and we're going to talk a little bit about their company they just launched. So welcome to the podcast, guys.
Thank you, Chris.
Hey,
excellent.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, so can you talk a little bit about the product that you guys just launched, and we'll kind of get into the backstory of it real quick?
Yeah. So we just launched a craft cocktail in a popsicle form. They're called Prohibition Pops, and we just released our first flavor or cocktail, and that is the DAC 33. It is basically our equivalent to a daiquiri, a house daiquiri that you would order in a craft cocktail bar or restaurant. And we just launched that in August of 2020.
And both of us, being in the industry for so long, really wanted to highlight a drink like the daiquiri that, especially in America, has become such a looked down on drink, you know?
Well, and it's kind of crazy to me because like the litmus test for a really good bartender, and especially in the craft world, it seems like the daiquiri is kind of there because it's so easy to kind of mess that up. So I love the fact that you guys went with the daiquiri as the first cocktail. That's really cool.
That was always one of our test drinks. We walked into a bar, you know, you order a daiquiri. They're like, well, I don't know where the blender is. You're like, oh, okay, I'll have a shot and a beer. Like,
absolutely. And it's funny, like that was one of my, when I was hiring, that was one of my cocktails. I'm like, okay, you say you're a great bartender, make me a daiquiri. Make me that, make me, a Negroni and I can't remember what the other one was, but there was like 3 cocktails.
That's funny. That I would use that one as well if I were hiring somebody, and a Negroni. A Negroni was the second choice. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So obviously you guys have some industry experience. Like what got you into bartending originally?
Go ahead, Cody.
I started working in restaurants when I was about 15, and it just, I started as a dishwasher working in a tiny mom and pop place, and then just kept, became busser, became server, and then I ended up working at a golf resort in Oregon. And once I got there, I knew I wanted to bartend. So my 21st birthday, I ended up bartending there, and then it's kind of all downhill from there, just a lot of nights behind the stick.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I was reading through your bio, and it says like you've kind of gone through a kind of evolution, right? Because it sounds like you had a lot of entrepreneurial experience in your past. So kind of the transition into opening your own company now, has that helped you to kind of get to this place?
It definitely has.
Yeah.
It gave us a lot of experience for front of the house, just with running the way to run a cocktail program, to run a bar, create cocktails, which and then turned out to creating this, cocktail in a popsicle form. Because of our background, we wanted to stay true to the cocktails that we were near and dear to. And, that's the way that we created them. We wanted to make sure that they tasted the right, the way that they're supposed to, because a lot of, places you come to find the ready to drink products, they taste weird. There's something not right. And we wanted to make sure that our product tasted, exactly like you would get in a bar or a restaurant.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was fortunate enough to get a sample that you guys sent out. And I got to say, I was super impressed. Like the tang from the lime is definitely present. You get the rum flavor. It surprised me because to your point, I've had a couple pre-batch cocktails recently, and it kind of follows the same formula, right? So the fact that it was so vibrant, so fresh, it was really, really good. I think I'm going to go through the rest of those in the next couple of days.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
Well, in our cocktail, our popsicle that we make, we do use fresh lime juice, and that was one of the difficulties when we were packaging them. We had a few issues with them exploding, so we had to figure out the correct balance with the fresh lime juice and the rum. You know, whereas some of the other ready-to-drink products are using malt liquor and just
artificial flavors and things like that make it. I mean, it's a lot easier to make a million of them, but
yeah, especially if you're using fresh ingredients. I mean, the thing that really impressed me was the fresh lime juice.
Yeah,
I could definitely taste it. I could taste the oils in it, and it tastes like a really good craft daiquiri, which is really hard to come by, as we were already talking about. And then, so I was going through your bio, and the places you worked are kind of a pedigree. Like, you guys have a really long history of being in these really great cocktail bars and fine dining. And would you mind just kind of telling us a couple of the places you've worked in the past as well?
I've worked at Toque and Bank, most recently in Napa. I've worked at Town Hall in San Francisco, Sociale, which is a tiny little restaurant where is that? It's in the city, across from Spruce Restaurant. Cody's worked in some pretty good places as well.
Yeah, most of my experience, I mean, I worked a lot of little places in Marin and stuff like that, but we ended up moving up to Napa Valley, and I only had 2 jobs there. I was Auberge du Soleil and Goose and Gander.
Which are pretty stinking great places, all of them.
Yeah,
it was a great.
We feel
great
very
setup.
lucky.
Yeah.
Very fortunate.
There were a lot worse jobs to have,
Right. So what made you guys decide that you want to kind of go down this pathway of opening your own company? Like, what was the catalyst of you guys heading that direction?
Go ahead. Okay. Well, we had moved up to Bandon a couple years ago, which is on the southern coast of Oregon. And we wanted to open up a craft cocktail bar, which we did. And
Speakeasy 33,
which was a great little bar. But unfortunately, the town is very, very small. There's only about 3,000 people in the town, and it just didn't do the numbers that we wanted to. We got a lot of good press and some, we had a few cocktails that were featured in some magazines, which was great, but we just weren't getting enough business. So, but in that time while we were doing that and creating cocktails, and we had a great cocktail program, we did create our Prohibition Pop. That's where the idea came from, when we were messing around with a cocktail with the daiquiri one day.
I think we should talk about that a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. So the whole Prohibition Pop idea came because one of my best friends that I worked with at Goose and Gander in St. Helena was Mark Leahy, and he ended up going overseas to Australia, moving there, and he ended up working at the Black Pearl when they won Best International Cocktail Bar, and then now he's at Birdie. So, and they just finished top 5 for Best New Cocktail Bar. But I really loved working with that guy, and he was somebody that I really missed creating stuff with. So we ended up getting on Instagram and just did a hashtag October Daiquiri Challenge. And we did every day, both of us would come out with a new one, list the specs for it and everything. And then, anybody who saw it could recreate the cocktail. But by the end of it, we had a couple of days that we doubled up on. But by the end, we had almost 70, original daiquiri recipes, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was fun. It was challenging for all of us, but we had a lot of fun with it, and that's where the Prohibition Pops came about.
Wow.
Because one day we were just like, oh, we should make it a slushie, and then it just evolved from there. So
that was probably the 30th or 31st when you wish you would have picked a shorter month for it.
February, man. February would have been great.
Yeah,
Right?
it would have been great. Would have been great. Get everybody ready for spring.
Yeah, I could have done it in February, but
That's funny. I can fully understand what you're mentioning about just like content creation. Like just, oh my God, another one. Here we go. All right, let's do it. But that sounds like a lot of fun. It sounds like a really great way to kind of connect with somebody half the world away, you know?
exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, and then how did you guys go about the process of like opening your own company and getting this stuff distributed? Because that can't be a small feat. I mean,
No,
that's pretty huge.
it's I think had we known now, or had we how do you say that? Had we known now what we knew then, or vice versa, I think we might not have gone through it.
Okay.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
While we were working at our other places in Napa, we kept continuing to perfect the recipe. We had a really awesome guy who worked on our packaging design, the box that they come in, as well as the popsicle sleeve. So while we were working, we continued to just work on that one flavor, that one cocktail first, the DAC 33. We figured that we would start with the first cocktail. We have 3 that we're going to be releasing altogether, maybe even 4, I think now at this point.
Yeah.
But we were working on that while we were doing our full-time jobs. So we just kept putting all of our money that we would make would go into that on the side. And then when COVID happened, we got let go, all the restaurants.
I mean,
closed and
everything shut down, so there was nothing that could really happen.
Then we decided to go 110% on our business, and we found somebody to manufacture it. We got somebody to make the packaging boxes. Then we had to find somebody to make the shipping boxes. So it's a lot. And now it's a point of where, you have 52 states. Each state is completely different when it comes to distribution. So we're still learning, and it's evolving as, day by day. So it's been an interesting ride.
Yeah. Well,
and continue to do so.
Yeah, it's got to be difficult, but congratulations on like getting to market. That usually takes people years. So the fact that you were working on it and got everything in place, seriously, congratulations. I know how hard it is.
It feels like years.
yeah, it definitely doesn't feel like a short time.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
COVID was nice. It kind of gave us that push off the high dive there. So we probably would have waited a little bit longer, tried to get more money, but at the same time, we were kind of forced into it, and we did it.
Yeah. Yeah. What is it? What's the saying? Necessity is a mother of invention.
Yeah, exactly.
It sure is a motivating force too.
Yeah. Definitely works.
So one of the things we talked about before off camera was the fact that you actually have a ton of experience with batching. I mean, this is kind of a direct result of your experience behind the bar, batching and managing batch programs. So I'm hoping that you can give us some insights in like a basic 101 of things you should do, like best practices, and kind of things to avoid when you're managing a batch program. Because I know there's a lot of logistics just in that particular thing, especially if it's for service, right?
Yeah. Yeah, the biggest thing with batching, just make sure that you stick to your original recipe. Measure it out and then figure out. A lot of times it's easy to work in measurements that are going to break down into a full bottle, either your 750s or your liters easily. Mm-hmm. So if you have, a Manhattan and you're going to split your 2 whiskeys and it's or 3/4 of an ounce each, that's easily translatable into a 750 just because, it's just a nice even measurement to keep pushing on through.
Right.
But if you don't have that original recipe right, it makes it real tough,
Right. It just kind of amplifies how wrong it is, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I've had plenty of times where I've messed up batches and, we're supposed to put in a bottle of something, you put in 2 of something, and then you end up with 15, 16 bottles of Manhattan because you had to fix the ratios and stuff like that. So you're sitting there looking like an idiot at the end of the day.
Right. Well, that's a lot of product to tie up and a lot of money to tie up.
Yeah. That's another thing with batching is that it's a significant investment to get it to where you can run and batch, at Goose and Gander, it was a 45 cocktail list.
Ooh.
A lot of places, even if you have a 15 cocktail list and you're trying to batch it out, that's a lot of money that goes into that. Some of those batches will be hundreds of dollars.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I remember when I was doing, I had a barrel age program at Wayfair, and we had a 9-barrel rotation.
Oh, wow.
All times. So it was the minute I started thinking about how much liquid I was holding, I was like, that's a lot of investment. That's like, hundreds of, not thousands of dollars of just liquid sitting on a shelf.
Yeah, it makes inventory kind of tough. You look at it, you're like, oh, how much?
Yeah, it made me pretty uncomfortable, but we sold a lot of them. So the manager was like, you need more barrels? I was like, yes, I do.
Sure thing.
Yeah.
So that's great advice. And then when it comes to like techniques and preparation, when it comes to batching, I know there's some discrepancy when people start talking about the nitty gritty of batching. So I'm hoping that we could talk a little bit about that real quick. First of all, citrus juice.
Always right when you're about to shake it.
Okay.
Yeah, never batch anything that's going to spoil like that in there. I used to batch with syrups, and even that makes me feel a little funny. But with the alcohol content as high as it gets, you're going to be okay with syrups and stuff like that. But anything that's, citrus, add it right before you're about to shake it.
Perfect. Okay, because I know that question's come across my my inbox a handful of times. I'm just kind of the same thing. Just like wait till the last second. You're gonna have juice anyways, so might as well just use it that way.
If you're gonna be doing a punch or something like that, I guess you would do it. But still, as close to serving time as you can do it.
Right. Absolutely. Bitters. What's your thoughts on bitters? Like I don't have a stance on this one either way, but I'd love to. I try to get this question from as many people that do it as possible. What's your thoughts on doing bitters in a batch?
I think it takes a very developed palate to notice the difference. I do think there's a difference, but I don't think 80% of people would notice it.
I kind of agree with you.
I think the same way. Always better right before, but it's 6 half dozen the other.
Right. Yeah. 100% agree with you. And then on the same hand, what do you think about vermouth? Is this kind of in the same line? Like I'm genuinely asking about this one. Is it along the same lines as like your bitters, or is it more along the lines of it's going to start to oxidize and start to break down like lime juice?
I mean, I've had a lot of batched Manhattans that have been, everything's built already in there, bitters and vermouth. And I've never, if you're going through product, it shouldn't matter.
Sure.
If you're going to go through a bottle a day and you make a bottle a day, that's great. But if you make 20 bottles and, day 20, you're pulling that last batch, it's going to be a little funky.
Right.
But I also love, anything oxidized, I love. I'm the person who goes crazy when I find an old bottle of vermouth somewhere or something like that. So
very cool. Excellent. And I think the only other questions I have for you as far as like batching and stuff, especially as it pertains to like maybe somebody's a stay-at-home bartender or, you know, or at-home bartender, and, you know, they're gifting things for people or friends and stuff like that. Any creative ideas around packaging? Because I know we've had a couple conversations, or packages types to avoid, as far as like a presentation and a health perspective.
Well, my feeling is always glass. I don't know how you feel.
I think glass, it looks the best. And I know that some people have been using those pouches. They're like, Vince used the pouch that looked
the
like
breast milk pouch.
the breast milk.
Yeah.
And as far as presentation, I would always go with glass. I just think it looks the cleanest, the nicest, and it's just, you know.
That's crazy. I never thought about the breast milk pouch.
Yeah, it was as soon as COVID happened and we were starting to be able to sell cocktails to go and things like that. A lot of people and a lot of places were using those pouches, and
people got creative. You know,
you kind of had to, right?
Yep. Yeah.
That's genius, though. It's a great use of that.
It is.
Yeah.
I never thought of that, but I don't know.
I know, right? The beauty of I don't even know where I would have looked for that information.
I
know. But that's really cool. Yeah, I know mason jars are kind of an easy one that a lot of people do, and even like old like repurposing the bottles that you're using to batching, and some other ones as well. But yeah, the breast milk one, that's new to me.
Yeah, we're lucky because in Napa we have a fermentation store, and they carry all kinds of different size bottles, and you know that you can just buy right off the shelf. So that's kind of nice. Or
there's always Amazon.
Yeah, there is always Amazon.
I can't even imagine how much business Amazon's gotten out of this COVID.
No, I'm sure.
It's got to be incredible.
Mr. Bezos.
Yeah,
I know, right? So when you guys were going through kind of product design and packaging design and stuff to bring your product out, was there anything that they said to stay away from, or did they just kind of like say, okay, these are the ones that I would recommend for your products?
Well, we had a little bit of issue with our the DAC 33. We wanted to actually call it daiquiri because it's a classic daiquiri, and we had problems with the TTD, and they were saying that we weren't able to call it a daiquiri because it doesn't. Why did they say something about the ingredients? They weren't exactly what the ingredients were. So we had to change it to, we got creative with that. So we were like, all right, well, DAC, it's going to be DAC. It's going to be daiquiri of some sort, some kind. So we just went with DAC 33. The 33 is from Prohibition, and that was our bar. Our bar was Speakeasy 33. So we kind of just devised that creative name through that. So
very cool. Yeah. And then as far as like materials, like to hold this stuff in there, because I know like with plastics, it's acid and alcohol are kind of your big ones, like because then you can't just use it like a milk carton or something like that, or maybe you can, I don't know. But it sounds like they kind of gave you a selection of like materials to choose from and said these are your options.
The film that we have for our popsicle sleeves is it's not biodegradable. We wanted to get biodegradable, but the fact that it has alcohol in it would eat away the sleeve, and we wouldn't know how long shelf stable it would be, which would be a huge issue if it were in a retail store or some other specialty stores. So we had to go with it is recyclable plastic.
Uh-huh.
What we got.
100% recyclable, which is good.
So because that's important to us, and but it wouldn't eat away, the alcohol wouldn't eat away through the plastic. So that's what we had to go with. We had a choice of a lot of pops out there use a non-clear film, but we wanted to make sure that our film was clear so that the person who is buying it could actually see the product. and see what they're getting. Because, I think that's important to be able to look at it and, you see that there aren't any, food colorings in there or, something that's artificial, because it looks natural. It doesn't, it's not fake, and it's not bright green. It's not, some iridescent color that you're like, woo, glow in the dark.
Yeah, I know, especially when it comes to packaging materials, this is something we run in with our bar products as well, is like you have your idea of what you want, but the reality of manufacturing is really, really difficult to kind of bring those two things together. Very cool. Thank you. And I think, if you could give advice to any bartender that's kind of looking to start a business right now, because I know there's a lot of people that are kind of exploring ideas and stuff. What advice would you give people that are going through it too?
Don't give up. Don't ever give up. Just keep going. There were so many times where we thought we weren't going to be able to do this. And, we thought that we were at our end of our rope, whether it be lack of money, lack of ideas, one thing or another, but we just kept moving forward. Don't give up on your dream.
Yeah, absolutely.
That really is the biggest thing, because it's, especially in these times, it's pretty easy to get,
discouraged,
beat down just by everything. So if you could just keep your head up and keep moving, that's pretty much the only way you can get through it right now.
It's so true. And then I have one random question for you. What was your favorite story about going through like cocktail development and like putting everything together? Do you have any like funny moments about that whole time? I'll give you some a story example I use from time to time. I was starting to go down the idea of making my own juices, like fermented juices. So I was doing a lot of exploring with ginger beers and stuff like this. This was probably 10, 12 years ago. And I had this genius idea that I want to make my own celery soda. So I was like, cool, I'm going to do this, puree some celery, juice it up, put some simple syrup in there, put some yeast in a bottle, shake it up. And I know my fermentation times, I know that. So I do it, and it's awesome. And I did a sparkling apple cider. It was awesome. The sparkling apple cider, I had to go to work, and I knew I should have put the bottle in before I left. It was like day 2. And I was like, uh-oh, all right. And we have a dog. So I'm thinking about this during service. And I'm like, oh my God, I forgot to put that stinking bottle in the fridge. Oh my God. I really hope it doesn't explode. And it was a 6-pack. I made a 6-pack of these apple ciders. So I'm like, all right, it is what it is. I can't do anything about this. Go to work, clock out, jet home as fast as I can. Cider everywhere. And my dog is like cowering under the couch. and it was a hell of a mess to clean up. But I remember that. I was like, I knew better. I knew I should have figured this out beforehand. But yeah, that's something I will always remember, of like coming home, the dog is like, cowering to see who it was, and just the mess and stuff like that. Do you guys have any like development or anything like that? What was your favorite story about the process of starting your own company?
Well,
hey, we have a similar one.
We have
a very
one. It was a very expensive one. Go ahead, you tell the story.
So we have a dog that we got 2 years ago now. He's a rescue pit bull. And he's since we got him, he's just been a ball of energy, just going crazy all the time. But he's really nosy and always wants to be in your business. So one day when we were trying to come up with another couple of flavors, we had just made 6 of each of these pops and tweaked the recipe slightly in each one so we could see what we were going to end up with. And we go and we're working on, I think we did 4 or 5 batches that day, and we had them all set 6 pops next to each other. And then you look at the last one and there's only 5 pops there, and he's running around the backyard with this thing, just throwing it all over himself. And then About an hour later, he was just so drunk he just fell asleep in the corner.
wasted.
I mean, he was a tiny puppy at this point.
Yeah, it was bad, but he was. He came out okay in the end, let's just say. But yeah, it's funny now.
Right.
You know, he was just wasted though. He was like shaking back and forth and walking, you know, like a drunk person would.
As you do.
But yeah. He still like pops to this day.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny, man. That's great. And then so far, how's everything been going? Like, how's the response been and everything with the sales?
It's been a little bit slow because of the pandemic, but we've gotten some really great feedback, and we have some awesome clients in, you know, Napa, Bay Area. We had the Jug Shop selling our pops, the Ferry Plaza, which is awesome. Yeah. We have them at some restaurants like Goose and Gander had them, Town Hall in Oakland.
Sure.
So that's kind of cool.
Some resorts as well in
some
Napa,
resorts,
but yeah,
with their pool bars. But hopefully, you know, when things get back to normal, they'll be selling them again. And Nugget Markets is selling our pops. So yeah, it's going pretty well. And
you guys won an award too, right? I saw on your website.
Yeah, we did. We won the bronze medal for our product at the 2020 San Francisco spirits competition. So that's pretty exciting.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
congratulations on that. That's like a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And soon we'll be in Washington, Florida, Michigan, and
hopefully New Jersey.
Hopefully New Jersey.
We're going for it.
Yeah.
Nice. I love it.
Yeah.
And then let's with the product line here, what's your like ideal thing you want to make? Like, what's the one cocktail you're like, I'm gonna do this. Like, this is the flavor I want to really do. Besides, obviously, the daiquiri.
I know what mine is. What's yours?
I think we have the same one on that.
Do you?
Yeah.
I want to do a Negroni pop.
Oh. Ooh. We are different then.
Are we different? Oh. I just think, I don't know. I know that's not going to be a lot of people's favorite, you know, but I want to do a Negroni pop because I love Negronis and I think it would just be awesome.
And I want to figure out a way to do an old-fashioned one.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Oh,
that'd be cool.
Because I think that would be a fun one just because of all the different liquors you can play off of with it too.
Maybe a fashion Negroni, and then we can think of another one for like a.
Do a Vesper.
Oh, okay, maybe.
Yeah, it's funny because my first thought was like a paper plane or something like that.
Oh, that would be a good one too. Yeah. That would be awesome.
Yeah. So that's cool, man. So how do people get in contact with you? Like, do you have a favorite social media platform or email address? Like, if people want to follow up with you.
We are on Instagram, and you can email us at our email address. I'm Cornelia at speakeasy33bar.com, and it's the same one for Cody, just Cody at speakeasy33 or
bar.com.
Or on our website.
Yeah, or the website prohibition-pops.com.
Perfect. Cool. Well, thank you guys so much for your time and for your help and expertise in this area. I really definitely appreciate it. And we'll have links in the show notes to everything they're working on. So definitely go check those out. But once again, thank you guys. And hopefully we'll get a chance to come up and see you guys up in Napa soon.
Yeah, perfect.
Awesome. Thanks for having us, Chris. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for the time.
Absolutely. Cheers.
Have a good one.
So once again, thank you to Cody and Cornelia for their time and sharing their story about starting a company during COVID. I know how hard it is to run a company, and I can only imagine the stress it was to do that during pandemic. So hats off to them. If you would like to find out more about their business and what they offer, head on over to prohibition-pops.com, and you can find out where they're located and how to purchase some of their popsicles. They're really good. Also, we'll have some show notes as well over at mixologytalk.com/192. So we'll have some more podcasts for everyone in the future, but until then, stay safe and have a couple of great drinks, everyone. Cheers.